What if I told you a man from a small village rose to become one of England's most influential leaders? Oliver Cromwell's story is filled with unexpected twists and dramatic changes. Born in 1599, Cromwell started his life as a simple landowner, but everything changed when the English Civil War began in 1642. His skills and determination helped the parliamentarians win crucial battles, leading to the downfall of King Charles I. But Cromwell's influence didn't stop with the war. After the king's execution in 1649, Cromwell took control as Lord Protector in 1653. This role allowed him to shape England's future, enforcing new laws and pushing his Puritan values. His leadership was both admired and criticized, as his reforms and strict rules were met with mixed reactions. Cromwell's impact on England was huge. His actions during the Civil War and his time as Lord Protector changed the nation forever. Stay tuned to find out how this remarkable figure left a lasting mark on history. Early life and background. Oliver Cromwell was born on April 25, 1599, in Huntingdon, a market town in Cambridgeshire, England. He came from a family of moderate standing, but they were well respected in their community. His father, Robert Cromwell, was a farmer and a local politician. Robert was known for his involvement in the local government and was a member of the Huntingdon Corporation, which was a significant civic body at that time. Oliver's mother, Elizabeth Cromwell, was from the Stewart family, which had connections to the local gentry. Although the Cromwell family was not wealthy, they were influential and had a solid reputation in their town. Growing up, Oliver was exposed to a blend of religious and civic duties, which would later shape his career. Cromwell's education began at a local school in Huntingdon, where he showed early signs of intelligence and promise. In 1616, at the age of 17, he went to Sidney Sussex College at Cambridge University. His time at Cambridge was short. He left after a few years without completing his degree. Despite not finishing his formal education, Cromwell's time at Cambridge helped him build a foundation for his future career. After leaving Cambridge, Cromwell returned to Huntingdon to manage his family's estate. His role in managing the estate gave him practical experience in leadership and governance. Cromwell also became involved in local politics, which was a common practice for someone of his social standing. His early involvement in local governance helped him develop skills that would be crucial in his later political and military career. One of the most significant aspects of Cromwell's life was his strong Puritan faith. The Puritans were a religious group that sought to reform the Church of England, removing what they considered to be corrupt practices and restoring a more pure form of worship. Cromwell's religious beliefs were deeply ingrained, and they played a crucial role in shaping his actions and decisions throughout his life. The Puritan emphasis on strict moral conduct and a commitment to personal piety influenced Cromwell's political and military career. His faith drove him to seek reform in not only religious practices but also in the broader societal and political spheres. Cromwell's dedication to Puritan values became evident in his later efforts to establish a government based on these principles during his time as Lord Protector. In his early years, Cromwell's Puritan beliefs were reflected in his personal life and in his approach to public affairs. He was known for his commitment to religious observance and his disdain for what he viewed as the excesses and corruption of the Anglican Church. This strong religious foundation would later motivate him to take bold actions in his quest to bring about political and social change. The English Civil War. The English Civil War, which began in 1642, was a profound conflict that pitted King Charles I against Parliament. This war was not just a clash between two opposing sides but a struggle that reflected deep-rooted disagreements about governance, power, and religion. King Charles I believed in the divine right of kings, a concept that held that monarchs had been appointed by God and thus had absolute authority over their subjects. This belief led Charles to act in ways that often ignored or bypassed the authority of Parliament. He tried to enforce religious practices that were unpopular with many of his subjects and to impose taxes without parliamentary approval. These actions created widespread discontent among the people and members of Parliament. In 1640, Charles's attempts to assert his authority led to tensions with Parliament, which were further exacerbated by his decision to dissolve Parliament and rule alone for 11 years. When Charles finally recalled Parliament in 1640, it did not resolve the issues but instead intensified the conflict. The parliamentarians were pushing for greater control over the monarchy and reforms in religious and political matters. By 1642, both sides were preparing for a confrontation. The conflict quickly escalated from a series of disputes into armed conflict, with battles fought across England. The war was driven by fundamental disagreements over how England should be governed and the extent of the monarchy's power. Oliver Cromwell's role in the English Civil War began as a member of the parliamentarian side, which opposed King Charles I. Cromwell was not yet a prominent figure at the start of the war, but his involvement would soon become crucial. Initially, Cromwell was motivated by his dissatisfaction with the monarchy and his strong Puritan beliefs. His Puritan faith influenced his views on governance and religion, making him a natural ally of the parliamentarians, who sought to limit the power of the king and reform the Church of England. When the war broke out, Cromwell took up arms and became involved in the parliamentarian military efforts. At this time, the parliamentarian forces were struggling. They were not as well organized or equipped as the royalist forces, which were commanded by King Charles I and had significant military resources. Cromwell's early role was that of a soldier rather than a leader, but his military skills and leadership qualities quickly became evident. His dedication to the parliamentarian cause and his ability to organize and inspire his troops played a significant role in the parliamentarian side's eventual success. Cromwell's leadership was characterized by a commitment to rigorous training and discipline, which helped to improve the effectiveness of the parliamentarian forces. One of Cromwell's most significant contributions to the English Civil War was his role in forming the New Model Army. The New Model Army was created in 1645 and represented a new approach to military organization. It was designed to be a professional and disciplined fighting force. Unlike the previous armies, which were often composed of poorly trained volunteers, Cromwell's efforts were crucial in establishing the New Model Army. He played a key role in recruiting, training, and organizing the soldiers. The army was structured to be more efficient and effective, with a focus on discipline and strategic planning. This professional approach gave the parliamentarians a significant advantage over the royalists, who were still relying on older methods of military organization. The New Model Army's effectiveness was demonstrated in several key battles, including the Battle of Marston Moor and the Battle of Naseby. Both of these battles were major victories for the parliamentarians and marked turning points in the war. The Battle of Marston Moor, fought on July 2, 1644, was a decisive engagement in the English Civil War. It was one of the largest battles of the conflict and a major victory for the parliamentarians. Cromwell's leadership and the performance of the New Model Army were critical to the outcome. In this battle, the parliamentarian forces, commanded by Sir Thomas Fairfax and Oliver Cromwell, faced the royalist army led by Prince Rupert of the Rhine. Cromwell's troops were well prepared and disciplined, and their effective use of cavalry was a key factor in the battle. The parliamentarians won a decisive victory, inflicting significant casualties on the royalists and capturing key positions. The victory at Marston Moor was a turning point for the parliamentarians. It strengthened their position and boosted their morale, demonstrating that they could effectively challenge the royalist forces. Cromwell's role in this battle established him as a skilled military leader and a key figure in the parliamentarian cause. The Battle of Naseby, fought on June 14, 1645, was another crucial engagement in the English Civil War. It was one of the most significant victories for the parliamentarians and played a major role in shifting the balance of power in the war. In this battle, Cromwell's New Model Army faced the royalist forces commanded by King Charles I and his leading general, Prince Rupert. The parliamentarians, under the command of Sir Thomas Fairfax and Cromwell, were able to achieve a decisive victory. The battle was marked by the effective use of cavalry and artillery, and the discipline and organization of the New Model Army were evident. The victory at Naseby was significant for several reasons. It effectively destroyed the royalist army's ability to fight and forced King Charles I to retreat. The parliamentarians' success at Naseby paved the way for their eventual victory in the war and the eventual downfall of the royalist cause. Cromwell's leadership and the new model army's successes had a profound impact on the English Civil War. The parliamentarian side, previously struggling, gained a significant advantage due to the improved organization and effectiveness of their forces. Cromwell's military achievements helped to shift the balance of power toward the parliamentarians. His ability to lead and inspire his troops was crucial in turning the tide of the war. The victories at Marston Moor and Naseby demonstrated the effectiveness of the new model army and solidified the parliamentarian position. The success of Cromwell and the new model army had far-reaching consequences. It led to the eventual defeat of the royalist forces and the capture of King Charles I. The outcome of the war resulted in significant changes in England, including the temporary abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic under Oliver Cromwell's leadership. The execution of King Charles I and the establishment of the Republic. In 1649, England witnessed a historical and dramatic event, the trial and execution of King Charles I. This momentous occasion marked a turning point in English history, symbolizing the end of the monarchy and the beginning of a new political era. The roots of King Charles I's trial lay in the deepening conflict between the monarchy and Parliament. Throughout his reign, Charles I had clashed with Parliament over issues of governance, taxation, and religious practices. His belief in the divine right of kings led him to act without Parliament's consent, exacerbating tensions. By the late 1640s, these tensions had erupted into the English Civil War, a conflict that saw Parliament fighting against the king's forces. The parliamentarians, led by figures such as Oliver Cromwell, were eventually victorious. The capture of King Charles I in 1646 marked the beginning of a new phase in the conflict. The king's refusal to negotiate a settlement with Parliament led to his trial. In January 1649, Charles was put on trial for high treason. The trial was a dramatic and unprecedented event. For the first time in English history, a reigning monarch was put on trial by his subjects. The trial was held in Westminster Hall, and the court was composed of members of Parliament who had been appointed as judges. The charges against Charles included his actions against the people of England and his attempts to undermine parliamentary authority. Despite the seriousness of the charges, the trial was highly controversial. Many argued that it was unlawful and politically motivated. Charles I maintained a defiant stance throughout the proceedings, refusing to acknowledge the court's authority. Oliver Cromwell played a significant role in the trial. As a leading figure in the parliamentarian movement, Cromwell was a key supporter of the decision to put the king on trial. He was a strong advocate for holding Charles accountable for his actions and believed that the king's execution was necessary for the future of England. Cromwell's influence was evident in the way the trial was conducted and in the determination to see it through to its conclusion. On January 30, 1649, King Charles I was executed outside the Banqueting House in Whitehall, London. His execution was a somber and dramatic event. Charles faced the scaffold with dignity, and his last words were a call for his subjects to forgive his enemies. The execution was carried out by beheading, a method that was intended to be quick and decisive. The death of King Charles I had profound implications for England. It was not just the end of a king's life but also a significant shift in the country's political landscape. The monarchy, which had been a central institution in English life for centuries, was abolished, and a new form of government was established. Following the execution of King Charles I, England was declared a republic. This marked a radical change in the country's governance and set the stage for a new political system. The establishment of the Republic was a direct result of the events of the Civil War and the desire for a different form of government. The abolition of the monarchy was not an immediate or straightforward process. It involved a series of political maneuvers and decisions that were influenced by the leaders of the parliamentarian forces. The initial step was the creation of the Rump Parliament, which was the remnant of the Long Parliament after the members who were not aligned with the parliamentarian cause had been removed. The Rump Parliament was responsible for the decision to abolish the monarchy and establish a new government. With the monarchy gone, the challenge was to create a stable and effective form of government. Oliver Cromwell emerged as a central figure in this process. Cromwell had been a key military leader during the Civil War. and his role in the parliamentarian victory gave him significant influence. He was a strong advocate for the republican form of government and played a crucial role in shaping the new political system. Cromwell's vision for the republic was influenced by his Puritan beliefs and his commitment to creating a government that reflected his values. He sought to establish a government that would be accountable to the people and that would promote religious and political reforms. His leadership was instrumental in guiding the country through the transition from monarchy to republic. In 1649, the Rump Parliament declared England a Commonwealth, which was a form of republic. The Commonwealth was based on the idea of a government that was accountable to the people rather than a monarch. This new form of government was intended to be more representative and to reflect the values of the parliamentarian cause. Cromwell's role in the establishment of the Commonwealth was significant. He was appointed as the Lord Protector, a position that gave him substantial authority and control over the government. As Lord Protector, Cromwell was responsible for overseeing the administration of the country and for implementing the policies of the new government. Cromwell's leadership was marked by a series of reforms and changes. He worked to create a more efficient and effective government. And he sought to address some of the social and economic issues that had contributed to the conflict. His administration focused on promoting stability and ensuring that the new government could function effectively. Despite his efforts, Cromwell's time as Lord Protector was not without challenges. The transition to a republic was fraught with difficulties, and there were ongoing debates about the best way to govern the country. Cromwell faced opposition from various quarters, including those who were dissatisfied with the new government and those who wanted to see the return of the monarchy. Cromwell's rule was characterized by a mix of military and political leadership. He used his authority to maintain order and to suppress dissent. His administration was marked by a focus on religious and moral reforms, which were influenced by his Puritan beliefs. These reforms included efforts to promote religious tolerance and to address issues such as public morality. The establishment of the Commonwealth was a significant achievement, but it was also a period of uncertainty and change. The new government faced numerous challenges, and its future was uncertain. Cromwell's leadership played a crucial role in navigating these challenges and in shaping the direction of the Republic. Cromwell as Lord Protector. In 1653, Oliver Cromwell took on a new role that would shape the course of English history. He became Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England. This position gave him significant power and responsibility, effectively making him the head of state. Cromwell's rise to power came after years of intense conflict and political upheaval. Following the execution of King Charles I and the establishment of the Commonwealth, Cromwell's assumption of power was not a straightforward process. He had been a key military leader during the English Civil War, and his leadership had been crucial in securing victory for the parliamentarians. After the war, Cromwell became a leading figure in the new government. The Rump Parliament, which had been in place since the dissolution of the Long Parliament, was increasingly seen as ineffective and corrupt. In April 1653, Cromwell and his supporters took decisive action. They dismissed the Rump Parliament and replaced it with a new body, known as the Barebones Parliament, which was intended to be more representative of the people. Despite the initial promise of reform, the Barebones Parliament proved to be short-lived. Its members were unable to agree on a new constitution or form of government. In December 1653, Cromwell took the step of dissolving this parliament as well. He then established the Protectorate, with himself as Lord Protector. This new form of government was designed to be more stable and effective, reflecting Cromwell's vision for England's future. As Lord Protector, Cromwell sought to implement his vision of a just and moral society. His Puritan beliefs deeply influenced his approach to governance. Cromwell's administration aimed to create a society that reflected Puritan values, emphasizing religious piety, moral conduct, and social reform. One of Cromwell's major goals was to enforce moral laws across England. This included a range of measures intended to promote public morality and religious observance. For instance, Cromwell's government passed laws against activities that were considered sinful, such as gambling, drunkenness, and blasphemy. Public behavior was closely monitored, and those who violated the laws faced penalties. These measures were intended to create a more disciplined and righteous society, in line with Puritan ideals. Religious tolerance was another significant aspect of Cromwell's reforms. Although Cromwell himself was a devout Puritan, he recognized the importance of allowing non-Anglican Protestants to practice their faith freely. His government granted toleration to various Protestant groups, including Baptists, Independents, and Quakers. This policy of religious tolerance was somewhat unusual for the time and reflected Cromwell's belief in a broad interpretation of religious freedom. However, Cromwell's tolerance did not extend to Catholics, who continued to face restrictions under his rule. Despite these efforts, Cromwell's style of governance faced criticism. His administration was often seen as authoritarian, and his approach to enforcing moral and religious laws was met with resistance from various quarters. Many people were uncomfortable with the level of control exerted by Cromwell's government and felt that it was infringing on their personal freedoms. Cromwell's attempts to impose Puritan values on a diverse and often resistant population were met with significant opposition. Cromwell's time as Lord Protector was marked by several challenges and controversies. While he was able to implement many of his reforms, his rule was far from universally accepted. Opposition to Cromwell came from multiple sources, including former royalists, disillusioned parliamentarians, and various social groups. One of the main sources of opposition was from those who had supported the monarchy and were unhappy with the changes brought about by the Commonwealth. Many royalists were dissatisfied with the loss of the traditional monarchy and were critical of Cromwell's authoritarian style. They viewed Cromwell's government as a temporary and illegitimate regime that lacked the legitimacy of a hereditary monarchy. Another significant challenge was the resistance from within Parliament. Although Cromwell had initially been a supporter of Parliament, his relationship with it became increasingly strained over time. Many members of Parliament were discontent with Cromwell's methods and the concentration of power in his hands. They were concerned about the lack of representation and the absence of traditional parliamentary processes. Cromwell also faced resistance from religious groups who were unhappy with his policies. While he promoted religious tolerance for non-Anglican Protestants, his administration was still viewed as imposing restrictions on certain religious practices. Some groups felt that Cromwell's policies did not go far enough in promoting true religious freedom. In addition to these internal conflicts, Cromwell's foreign policy faced challenges. His government was involved in various military campaigns, including conflicts with Ireland and Scotland. These campaigns were controversial and often unpopular, leading to further criticism of Cromwell's administration. Despite these challenges, Cromwell remained a central figure in English politics. His leadership was characterized by a mixture of military and political authority, and he continued to work towards his vision of a moral and just society. His rule saw significant reforms and changes, but it also highlighted the complexities and difficulties of governing a country through a period of profound transition. Death and aftermath. Oliver Cromwell, the once formidable leader of England, passed away on September 3, 1658. His death marked the end of a significant chapter in English history. Cromwell's passing was a considerable event, given his prominent role in shaping the country during the English Civil War and his tenure as Lord Protector. Following his death, his son Richard Cromwell briefly succeeded him as Lord Protector. Richard Cromwell's brief rule did not match the strong leadership of his father. His tenure lasted only a few months, characterized by political instability and growing dissatisfaction. As Richard struggled to maintain control and address the various challenges facing the government, it became evident that the Protectorate was faltering. The lack of support and the growing pressures from different factions led to the eventual collapse of the government Richard inherited. By 1660, it became clear that the public and many political leaders were seeking stability and a return to traditional governance. This desire culminated in the restoration of the monarchy. Charles II, the son of the executed King Charles I, was invited back to England and restored to the throne. The monarchy's restoration marked the end of the period of republican rule and a return to the established royal system. This shift was accompanied by significant changes, reflecting the complexities of England's political landscape after years of civil conflict and republican rule. After his death, Oliver Cromwell's legacy continued to be a subject of considerable debate. In 1661, his body was exhumed from Westminster Abbey, where he had been buried. The exhumation was part of the broader effort to discredit Cromwell's memory and reaffirm the restored monarchy's legitimacy. Cromwell's body was publicly displayed and then subjected to a posthumous execution. His head was severed from his body and put on display outside Westminster Hall as a symbol of the restoration of royal authority and a dramatic statement against Cromwell's rule. This public display was intended to denigrate Cromwell and erase his influence from the historical record. It was a stark reminder of the intense political and social divisions that characterized the period. Despite these efforts to diminish his legacy, Cromwell's impact on English history persisted. His actions and the policies he implemented during his rule left a lasting mark on the political and social landscape of the nation. Oliver Cromwell remains a polarizing figure in English history. Views on his legacy vary widely, and he is remembered differently by different groups. Some view Cromwell as a reformer who played a crucial role in advancing political and religious freedoms. His efforts to create a government based on Puritan values and his attempt to implement a more equitable society are seen by some as progressive and impactful. On the other hand, Cromwell is also regarded as a dictator by those who criticize his authoritarian style of rule. His enforcement of moral and religious laws, combined with his concentration of power, has led some to view him as a ruler who imposed his beliefs on others and curtailed individual freedoms. His role in the execution of King Charles I and the establishment of the Protectorate is often highlighted by critics as evidence of his uncompromising and often harsh approach to governance. The historical debate surrounding Cromwell's legacy reflects broader discussions about his role in shaping modern England. His impact on the political system, his approach to governance, and his contributions to the development of constitutional principles are all subjects of ongoing analysis. Cromwell's life and actions continue to be examined by historians and scholars, reflecting the complexity of his character and the profound changes he brought to England during a turbulent period. What do you think Oliver Cromwell's impact would be if he were alive today? Could his groundbreaking ideas on democracy and human rights still influence modern society? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so share them in the comments below. In our next video, we'll uncover the life and achievements of another remarkable figure whose revolutionary ideas transformed history. Stay tuned to discover their incredible contributions and how they shaped the world we live in. With that said, thanks for watching. Until next time.